This is props to my buddy. He likes to have a snack when he does this chat, so props, Monograph. And he might have a new king bet for you. Monograph's chat is really fun. He has a lot of games, and he does like this thing where they like go visit other chats and do. I can't remember what he calls it, like chat. He has a name for it. His chat is really good. Monograph. He's a full-on IT, and I've told him that I think he's like following the golden rule and everything, and that he's down with the king. I mean, well, I kind of send out these messages. I don't know if everybody like. Sometimes I don't know if they answer me like they want to like answer, but they don't because they don't want everybody to see that they. I don't know, but I just say it, like, hey, bro, this is what I think. This is what my great faith tells me. That dude, the way you are with your golden rule stuff and your IT stuff and all that dude, you're already hooked up for the golden rule stuff in the golden kingdom. You're gonna be like one of the ITs for the world, for the kingdom, bruh, for like 1,000 years, like YouTube, gold tube, same thing, bruh. So, he gets into these little things that he does, like when he goes chat jumping or whatever he calls it. It's pretty neat because he's like, okay, we're going to go visit. And then he puts it on his little link thing and we all go visit a chat. Hey, what's up, guys? And these chats, he usually find one that's having a hard day, It's kind of like a golden rule thing. And he's like, these poor guys, they're like not getting any love, like having a hard day, chat host, what the heck, what am I going to do? So, hey, let's just like go visit them. There's like 600 of us. Yeah, let's do it. Just like, this guy's like, he's like sitting there. There was one guy, I can't remember. He was like in Hawaii somewhere. I went to it a couple times. I just don't have time. But it was so funny because he's like, Outlander and Maui or something, like full on, like, and he kind of like, it wasn't a very exciting chat, but he was cool, a nice guy and everything. He was like looking at something, and it was funny because we all came like, hey, what's up? What is that? Oh, and then, we'll see you later. But he actually picked up a few guys that were like, hey, that's pretty cool. I like his chat, So it's kind of like a golden rule thing, just. Well, so the other day, he got this new, hey, man, word has it, the ITs, they're always in on these things. He's like, hey, man, people are betting on, like, how much traffic some things are getting on YouTube. And, like, if you, like, do good, then, so if you know. So I was thinking, wow, that's pretty cool, Monty. And I don't know if it's, I don't know, check all his sources or anything, but he's pretty cool. So I was just thinking, if you were into like that betting thing, or if you knew how to invest in YouTube and what's doing good and what's not, I'm like a total dimwit on that. I'll just admit it. I'm humble pie on that one. I'm so happy I can make a video and get it out. Hey, wow, I just figured out TikTok. So it's, it's all cool, but I was just thinking, if we, like, as, all these agents for the king, secret agents that we're trying to be, all of us. So if we, like, really start following the golden rule and, like, making YouTube blow up for the king, and then we could know where to bet if we did know how to bet, and then we could make money with the king, kind of like pre-gold, because it's all turning pesos anyway. So I'm just thinking, like, that's the other thing. I don't know if money's in this stuff, but I think just going organic is like a great move if you're going to invest, because that would be a king investment. So that's a golden rule thing, It's like Scotland and Mexico already. I mean, I'm ready to go to Acapulco. I don't know about you, but they already got the town down there, muy bien. They're like, not only is Mexico all organic now, but in Acapulco they got a place in this town where you can literally work an organic farm and literally get paid in food, and that's your pay. And you get room and board too. And there's no cash involved. So any pesos you have that already got turned to Trump, but the warp speed shenanigan, with all that gold coin stuff, well, you don't have to worry, you see. He says, it's all good. Just trust in the king and do good. So here's another thing. Since we're on the golden rule, and since we're on to what I love is food, and since we all are going broke, it's always a good thing to remember recipes that you could make cheaply and give away. Now, my organic shortbread, it's not too cheap, but it is so good that just a little bit of a gift would do. So, we're going to do another recipe now, if we've given time. Hopefully, it shouldn't take too long. So, what you do is you take any kind of cream, if you have any, organic, of course, because that's twice the nutrition of regular cream. And so if you don't, you have half and half, or milk, any will do. And then you cook your pasta, but you cook it with less water to barely cover it. Okay? So then if you're camping or any situation like that, then you can just boil a little bit just to cover the pasta. And then as you boil it down, if you have any bone broth or herbs that you like Italian seasonings or any of that, then you stir that in as you are boiling it, and it gets less water in it. And if you have real bone broth, you can make it risotto style, and if you don't know how to do that, just add a little as it boils down and starts to get a little not al dente enough yet, which means to the tooth, just a tid bit of crunch to that pasta. And then as it's getting there, well, then you can, finish it off. And if it's got a little cream, then you just add a little cream. Or actually, if you start it with some butter too, that's always nice to keep the flavor really good and from sticking. And so once the water gets less, kind of like a regular sauce, then you would just add a little cream and a little of these other herbal and spice things that you like, your favorites like pepper and all these good things, and then let it come together with the pasta in it. So you cook the flavor into the pasta and not wash it in water. Then you use less water and you get more flavor in your food. And then if you're really tight, which some people can be these days, you can remember the old Italian trick of the original carbonara, which is to take, even if you just cooked it with just water, with nothing but your seasonings, maybe some salt, of course, and Himalayan, please, and then when you cook it with the water and your seasonings, then when it gets less water in it, and hopefully you have butter or some avocado oil would be great. Then, when it's starting to get to where you need to make a sauce, then you can just take an egg and whip it or two and put it in that hot pasta with that little bit of water left from the seasonings and boiling. And as you stir that in, well, then you will have a full sauce. And a little cream and all these things will just make it a little better. And then, if you want to have some real nutrition, you can add other things. And of course, your cheese, if you have it, is always nice. But what they did was they would take just a little bit of salt with some of that egg and stir it in real quick in that hot pasta. And it would look like cheese. And then they would add salt. And even if they had only a little bit of milk, it would be like a creamy cheese sauce with a little bit of salt and some good seasonings. And I think right now that's how they make vegan cheese to a point. And I don't like vegan cheese at all. I think it's insane. But anyway, that's another game. So if you have more of the fun things like cream and cheese, of course you would add some Parmesan in the end, or fancy like Reginato. And you can add some of that fresh reishi mushroom powder, organic, or any of those other great mushrooms like lion's mane and all those other ones, and stir them in right after the pasta's done, and it will make a nice sauce. And if you need a little more, you can add a little more cream or whatever, and it should be still hot enough to melt the cheese. And you can always Put it back on low heat if you need to. But all these things you can do with a little camping stove. It would only take you about 10 minutes. I've done it at least 100 times. And it's very cheap pasta. And the more fun like things you have, like those mushrooms and spices and cheese and all those tasty things, and of course half and half, which I love with my coffee anyway. It's like a luxury to me. But do you see how these things can make your life so much easier? You can just make that pasta without even draining anything, and you can make it in about 5 or 10 minutes, just like macaroni and cheese. But it's actually cheaper if you have the right things, and sometimes all you would need is some seasonings and a little oil and water and pasta, of course. And you can get non-GMO pasta at most stores for like $1.50 a box. So it's really quite cheap to eat quite organically. So try these things, because that carbonara, if you want to get fancy, you can add a little bacon, especially, the uncured one, almost organic. The organic one is like $10 a pound, so it's like out of sight. But it really is tasty. And the original way was pancetta, which is, Italian bacon, if you can find it, if the real one. And there is some organic too. Wow, that stuff is amazing. So that's like, if you really want to live in luxury, like the fancy restaurants that are charging $25 a plate for carbonara, well, then you can use Reginato cheese and cream and real butter in your sauce, and some fresh, like portobello mushrooms if you want. But all the reishi powder and things, it's giving you twice the nutrition, especially when it's raw. And then you'll get like 3 meals in one that'll be cheaper than most of the fast food restaurants that are poisoning you. So there's a little golden rule tip, just to help things along, of how we all could do these things if we really lived in the greatest reset, which is to love God right and a neighbor as ourselves. So do you know how, like if you could make some of this carbonara and give it to someone you know who's really stressed out because Jack in the Box sucks already, and those, well, if you've ever eaten too many of those cheap tacos, well, the next day I don't know, sometimes it's that dead rat smell. It makes me nervous the next day. So anyway, I don't want to get too detailed about that, but hopefully you get my hint. And so it's always good to know what you're eating and how less poison it is, because if we're trying to get like with the king on all that same page, then don't we want us all to love each other, right? Not like try to figure out who should die first or whatever. So remember that Quaker idea of training to be a good pastor. And if we are with the king, we all are his priests. And that is to pray for everyone you see. One day, you pick a day, whatever. Every day would be amazing, because he's saving all those prayers and you might get rewarded for them. So if you care enough to pray for everyone you see, wouldn't that be big on that golden rule thing? If golden rule's coming for those who are earning it right now? Of course, it's always been like that, but it's especially good to know now when the dollar is the peso and Trump might have time traveled. But anyway, let's get back to that theme. Golden rule and loving one another, right? And loving God, right? It's so simple. I get it mixed up sometimes. But I love y'all, and I want you to keep doing what you're doing. Keep praying to the king, because we can really move mountains for the king and get on the same page if we're not arguing.